So what it is now a little over 24 hours after Donald Trump won the majority of the popular vote, about half the Latino vote, um, overwhelming majority of the electoral college, just all three branches of government.
Amazing. Yeah.
Both houses of outspoken conservative and outspoken Trump voter.
Which is your right to do in this country.
Of course, he was a COVID dissident. And he was raided by the FBI today.
I think that we got to go big. We got to go fast. Two major issues right out the gate. One is already the one that we have a great judicial branch right now at the top of the Supreme Court, the best we've had, certainly in our lifetime. But you combine that with the strong electoral mandate for the presidency, a strong, decisive majority in the Senate, hopefully get a good Senate majority leader picked, and as much as possible, as quickly as possible. I think that the lesson from last time around is if you don't move fast, the beast ultimately will,
So we're going to talk about this clip from Tucker Carlson and Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm not playing the whole thing. I will link the whole thing in the description, and you guys can go down there and go watch the full thing. I encourage you to do so. Please do so. All right. This is basically going to highlight some of my concerns with bureaucracy in a socialist system. Now, what you have to understand is the more government grows, that's more socialist, right? The less government is and how much government is reduced, that is more capitalist, right? Free market. You want to unchain the market. Like for me, for instance, when I was employing 12 individuals, I had to have less regulation during COVID and all these regulations that was going on and all these liberal cities was shutting down. The freight market started going crazy, and it was going crazy in a bad way. More the regulations, the restrictions, and just through a lot of democratic policies, it hurts a lot of individuals that are trying to, get ahead. I remember when Biden came in and immediately, signed off numerous executive orders that we can argue the purpose of, but they directly affected me and my business. I immediately had issues with catching payroll, right? Immediately, it got crazy. Now I'm a company that's generating $1 million a year, and now I'm struggling to make sure that everybody's getting their salaries because of regulations. You understand how ridiculous that is? That is socialist overreach, right? And we can get into a lot of different morals and moralities about things like the EPA, the health administration. We can get into all of that stuff in a later topic if you guys are interested. But those are socialist intruders into the markets. So I'm gonna play this clip. I'm gonna play it uninterrupted for about maybe 5 or 10 minutes because this is a very fascinating segment from Tucker Carlson and Vivek. And it also expresses kind of what going forward, what's going to happen. And you, government employees, if you're a government employee right now in this era, in today, you better start preparing. I ain't gonna lie to you. You need to actually understand, you need to be paying attention to this more than anybody because you might be out of a job. And I'm saying this severely because it's real. I've been on all sides of this thing. I've been a government employee before. I was in the military. All right. So I get it. But I can tell you this, if you are DOD related, there's a good chance that you won't be affected. But if you're in all of these other agencies, all of these other bureaucratic installed monarchies, little monarchies that's just writing laws off to give orders to people's lives that weren't elected or voted in, they were appointed. Oh yeah, if you fall in that category, you need to be paying attention to this. All right, you need to be paying attention to this. All right, let's go.
Don't think Alfie Oakes was doing anything that warranted an FBI raid, and I doubt he would have been raided had he not been an outspoken Trump voter. So anyway, these people are scary. They're going to be thrown out of power. What does Trump do with the mandate that he has?
I hope as much as possible, as quickly as possible. I think that the lesson from last time around is if you don't move fast, the beast ultimately will swallow any individual whole.
Of course.
And so I think he's ready to go in with real determination this time around to move quickly, move fast. I think we need wins behind our back early on. One of the things that I think we learned from last time around is a lot of this is just early momentum, right? Let's say we have all three branches. Let's say we've got, judicial branch. We have a great judicial branch right now at the top of the Supreme Court, the best we've had, certainly in our lifetime. But you combine that with the strong electoral mandate for the presidency, a strong, decisive majority in the Senate, hopefully get a good Senate majority leader picked. And I think Rick Scott would be great for that, but it
can't be John Cornyn.
Yeah,
John Cornyn is an aggressive liberal. And if Donald Trump wins the popular vote and John Cornyn of Texas, who is way more liberal than a lot of Democrats I know, winds up Senate majority leader, it's crazy.
So assume a few more of those correct pieces fall into place, and then even a majority, at least an impeachment-proof House. I think that we got to go big. We got to go fast. Two major issues right out the gate. One is already the one that Donald Trump's been talking about the entire time. He's pumped up about it, and he is not going to mess around with this, is to fix the illegal immigration crisis and actually seal our national borders. And he is laser focused on that. He has made no secrets about that. That's his top campaign message. He's going to keep that promise, and I think he's going to keep it fast starting on day one. That's number one. And there's a lot to say on that, but it's hard to say what hasn't already been said about what needs to be done.
Right.
It's just about getting in there and doing it. So that's mass deportation. Number one is millions of illegals out of this country and sealing the border along with it. But I'm actually far more intrigued and interested for the long run in what I think of as the second mass deportation that we require, which is the mass deportation of millions of unelected federal bureaucrats out of the DC bureaucracy. And I do think that is what's going to save this country
but you
in the long run.
Can't do that.
I think you actually can.
You can't fire. We can all be fired. I've been fired many times. Yeah. I'm sure you just lost a presidential race. Like the only group that cannot fail that has actual tenure is not Harvard professors.
Not even. Yep.
It's not even.
Yeah.
It's federal bureaucrats. Amy Wax just got, tenure is no protection at all compared to the protection of federal employment.
Yeah. So the one difference is, first of all, we have a president who I think has the spine to actually step up and do it. But the second thing is we actually have not to get too, in the weeds here, but we actually have a legal landscape with the current Supreme Court that allows us to do what couldn't have been done in the last half century.
But they have a moral right to work from home 10 hours a week at our expense at a far higher wage than the average American.
Oh, absolutely. So,
all right, so check this out. What they just touched on is a fascinating point. All right. Tucker's, of course, being tongue-in-cheek. Now, I know a lot of individuals that currently still work for the military, or they have transferred out of being in the military and now they work for government agencies. Okay. I know plenty of them. Okay. This is not a shot at them, but it is a reality that only they will really know. It's their own little bubble, right? It's their own little world that they live in where, you don't really have to be extremely productive because their salaries and their income is not based on productivity. It's based on how much they can tax the taxpayers or what tariffs can come in. It's all based on government funds. It's not based on competition, free markets, and productivity. Any private sector company that starts from the bottom has to work off of productivity. You don't have an unlimited budget. You don't have an unlimited button to press and print money and then hold people at gunpoint to collect taxes from their income to staff more people. All right, so it's a machine that ends up growing itself more and more year after year to justify itself existing. And in any country that has gotten as prosperous as ours and as big as ours, the number one thing is to keep stimulating that part of the growth, not stymie it by putting this overweight blob that holds it down and sucks the life out of it, which is bureaucracy, government, because they're going to always justify a reason for them to exist. Okay, so you have to look at the bigger picture. Why did Biden, I think it was 2023, come out with the budget to increase IRS agents by 85,000? So 85,000 people got jobs, and then they put into legislator that they all need to be able to carry and fire a gun with deadly precision if need be. Why would an IRS agent need a gun to go and why would they need an order to go kill you at all? They're not criminal investigators. In what world, if somebody, is late on their taxes, do you need to show up and kick in their door with guns? What reality does that make sense? But they slid that all into reality without even having any mainstream coverage, because it wasn't interest to the state. You had to search this type of information out. And that's the type of stuff that starts happening with socialist economies, socialist governance. You start letting the important things slip under the radar. But the bullshit you want to talk about is all on the news all the time. All right, so you got issues like that with this bureaucracy and socialism push and cultural Marxism push, which we'll get there. It's just a lot. So let's just cover this point.
Yeah. The funny thing is,
but they have a moral right. You can't complain about.
You actually brought up a really interesting dimension of this. If you literally just mandated that they have to actually show up to work Monday through Friday, I know, radical idea.
They don't go to work.
Actually, a good number of them would quit that way. Right. That step alone. So you don't even have to talk about, you want a mass firing, a mass exodus. Just tell them they have to come back 5 days a week from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. Like most Americans who work hard.